and the server does tend to go to sleep or do things that we have no control over right now.
Did everybody hear that?
Is that why it crashed last week?
Yes.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I just had.
Would you come up so we can hear you?
Well, I think I was big enough now. I just have a question, with that, is how often would it need to be upgraded again? Like, you know, how often does that upgrade?
I'm not sure.
Do we know? It's my understanding that the top software part of that contract is, it includes like software upgrades throughout the year. Like if something new comes up, it's offered to us.
That's tough. This is a
Yeah,
different.
they're bringing it in, so.
They can interface with TOPS. I did ask Ray, and they said that they can interface with TOPS. Is that right, Deanne?
Yeah.
I called TOPS, and TOPS does not offer the member management like MotionSoft does. All they can do is extract and give us information through extracted files. They can't do what MotionSoft does for us now.
It's financial only, correct?
It's not integrated. Yes.
That didn't answer the question. I would have to look at the upgrade contract to see if there's some form of term. The way that Ray, who's the IT lady here, explained it to me was, everything is cloud-based now. With the cloud, you shouldn't have to upgrade unless we have some crazy new technology that comes out where people go away then from the cloud. So it should be, you know, last as long, in my opinion, as it has so far. But I can try to get some better information on that for you.
Is it, what do we know about encryption on the cloud? Is it real spec or, you know?
I
It's only as good as the password used. It's only as good as the password used.
They're putting PTF off.
I have talked with Ray to ask her to find out a little more history on what kind of security we do have with the cloud, even with TOPS. So hopefully Ray will be able to get back with me with more of that information.
Yeah, you spoke with Ray. This is something that needs to be done quickly, right?
They would like it done as quickly as we can so we do not lose historical data.
So with the security, is this something that we can approve tonight and then?
You could, but maybe, I mean, since our next meeting is
It's 2 weeks.
I might just gather this and then. I mean, I know that we can't possibly afford to switch to another software, but like, you know, like upgrades and additional cost maybe to that, if there was like, this is really only a 5-year thing, you're gonna be doing this again, or the security parameters, I think maybe we should get more clarification.
I think the members would be more comfortable with that information security.
That's all I was going to add is you can find out what the upgrade fees. I would want to know if the upgrade fees are part of my $85 a month, or are they and times 5, or is that something that you have to pay an additional upgrade fee, which it may be included if you're a licensed user.
And see, this is a great example of why having the 2 meetings would be good. So this is one of those areas, because I don't know about anyone here, but while I can read this, there's
What is an FTP file?
Okay, so I'll make a motion to move this to the August 11th regular meeting in order to gather more information.
What's the drop dead date?
That's what I was just about to ask. What kind of time constraints are we on?
It needs to be done as quickly as possible, but I think 2 weeks. Would she be able to do 2 weeks? Deanne?
We should be good with doing 2 weeks. It was actually scheduled to be looked at on June 30th, but at this point we're past that date, so I don't see pushing it out 2 more weeks to get more information would hurt us that much.
I mean, all we're lacking is the information on encryption and upgradability and whether or not that affects it. I mean, I'm all for, you know, doing a motion where we approve it pending the satisfactory, their security and upgradability meets our approval.
It's a good point, because would that information really?
Cause they could find that out
sway
tomorrow and then everything,
I'm
we
comfortable.
will pull the trigger on that.
Okay.
My only point was you can go ahead and have a special meeting once you got that information, and, that's 2 days from the point in time you have that, you notice it.
To have a special meeting,
If you go ahead and approve it,
If
then
you
you don't
find-
need to.
yeah.
If you find you have to take immediate action that can't wait till the 11th, you can always call a special meeting and get it done.
Otherwise, it could wait till.
What's that? What's another one?
All right, so I'm going to pull the motion I made.
Alright,
Rescind.
my motion is that we approve for 5 stations at $85 per station per month, with the transfer fee, one-time transfer fee of $1,600, pending further clarification on the security and whether or not this software will require upgrading in the future. And giving Deanne the authority to go ahead and order that software once we get that information, if it's satisfactory.
Is it order it or authorize payment?
Just upgrade it.
Just for Deanne.
Well, we would have to, does your motion include the purchase of it, or are you delaying it?
No, I'm authorizing it to happen once we
If it's
get the
satisfactory.
answers that are
Okay.
satisfactory.
He's making a motion to approve it pending satisfactory answer to the 2 issues.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Would you want to, I would recommend you consider amending your motion, amending your motion to include a dollar amount that Deanne could authorize if it's for the upgrades, so that you're not just give her 2,000, 3,000, whatever.
He did. He included that, the $1,600 for the one-time transfer fee and the $85 a month for the 5.
Right, but if there
stations.
is, but if there's additional costs that are discovered, such as you're gonna have to pay, you're gonna have to have upgrade fees or some other cost that comes along, you can say authorize her $2,000. That way you give her discretion to work within or whatever, to be able to make decisions and negotiate. That's just,
Not to approve.
that way it doesn't have to come back to the board to approve.
Well, let's amend the $1,600 transfer fees and just make it a up to, not to exceed $2,000 for transferring this to the new system, upgrading to the new system. Front-end fees for upgrading, not to exceed $2,000.
So your motion is to approve the $1,600 transfer fee of $1,600 to include the 2,000 in case of
Well, the
something.
2,000 would be inclusive
And
of
the
the
1,600.
1,600. So instead of saying the $1,600 being fixed, then we're just allowing up to $2,000 for the installation and upgrade. And that way she's got a cushion in case there's some miscellaneous. Because I hate for them to come up and say, $50 more for this, and then we have to throw a monkey wrench in.
Okay, well, you know what the upgrade cost for MotionSoft is. It includes the 85 and it includes the 1,600. That's on paper. So why don't you say that you approve the upgrade cost as quoted, and then pending these, and then any additional up to whatever amount you want for that, instead of trying to break it all out with how much you think. You know what I mean?
That's what I was struggling with, so so that's, I agree with wording it that way. Because we would then be approving what's on paper,
Right.
and then anything that exceeds that up to,
Right.
say, a
Exactly.
$2,000
Right.
difference,
Exactly.
she would have the authority to,
Yes.
okay. Did you want to restate your motion?
Okay, let's try this. board approve the bid from MotionSoft for the upgrade, to also include a cushion for the total dollar amount not to exceed $2,000, pending the clarification on satisfactorily, pending making us happy on the security and whether or not we'll need further upgrades in the future.
Satisfactory response to inquiries. I second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Yeah.
Nay.
What did you say?
Aye.
Oh, aye.
Say it like
I thought you
that.
said nay. Okay.
That was a good thing.
Okay. All right, for the last item, discussion and vote on method of returning to staggered board terms. I'm not sure who put this on the agenda, so I'll turn it over to that person.
I put it on there just, it was brought up to me that, we needed to come up with something on paper that the board approved as far as the, trying to get back to the staggered terms. The covenants were originally set up with terms on how to, on the first election, to stagger the election so that we wouldn't have a complete board turnover every 2 years. But it was only specific for that first board meeting. After that, it said everybody was elected for a 2-year term. So, my personal opinion is that if we take what the intent was on the first board meeting in order to stagger the terms, they already spell out the methodology for doing it. You should have it in your book.
No, but go ahead.
So, it just states that the top 3 people who receive the top 3 votes will be the 2-year term, and the bottom 2 vote numbers would be the 1-year term. Since Alex Crawford is already going to be off the board in the next election, then that would only leave 1 slot. And based on the number of votes that everybody received in this election, that would be Deanne would be the one to step down after a year. And that way we would go back to the next election we would elect 2 people. The following election would be 3 people, and then it doing like it's supposed to.
So, starting now, we're sort of resetting the clock, or resetting the terms. So the top 3, as of this past election, would serve for 2 years. The bottom 2 would serve for 1 year. And so Alex Crawford then would be included in that bottom 2 because she has 1 year left. And then Deanne would serve for 1 year. So next year, in 2016, there would be an election of 2 board members. And then in 2017, there would be an election for 3 board members.
Correct.
And then it would just remain staggered thereafter.
Follow that, yes.
Got you. I didn't ask for discussion.
I would think you might consider that as a contingency plan, but we never know what's going to happen around here. And there's no guarantee that any of you will still be sitting here come election time next year. So, because of that process, it may be, in fact, that another person is appointed to the board because of somebody resigns for health reasons or whatever it is. And that person only serves until the next annual election, so the issue is resolved. This could be that if all of you serve the full term, that you need to take that action, when you're talking about sending out the ballots and stuff next year. But I think it's kind of premature to go ahead and say that right now that whoever got the lowest number of votes is going to be out at the end of 1 year term. Because it depends on the action that you people take will determine that.
Well, that's pretty much the case with, when they had the first election. I mean, they didn't know who was going to, if they were going to be there a year, second year, if anybody was going to resign. That's why they've got it in there about how to fill a vacancy. So, I mean, I don't think there's never any way to avoid that conflict in the future.
But it was just for that initial election
Yes.
that's mentioned in there.
Beth Walter, 948 Resort Street.
The other option is you might wanna poll the board members, cause there may be a board member that only wants to serve one term, whereas you have another board member that would prefer to serve 2 years, so.
I'm just agreeing with my two neighbors that you probably don't want to lock yourself into removing one person based on the number of votes. But please go ahead and have this as a contingent that if all 4 members want to continue, then you can go to that process. But that's only if you have 4 people who want to continue.
Say what you just said again.
With our procedures for the HOA, we're required to give documentation to the state and use it for accounting purposes of what terms the directors are on the board, is why this came up and why I brought it to him to look into, to discuss.
And how many days before it's required to submit this?
I don't know, but I would assume it's the same as the 90-day for your board certification and your background check information.
So we could then defer this or table this until August 11th.
It may delay our bank account stuff. I mean, August 11th, 2 weeks, yes, I thought you were saying 90 days, yes. You could do August 11th and it'd be okay.
And that way you could get an idea of, as she was saying, the polling the members. Unless I'm comfortable either way. You know, it's really whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I brought it up this way was just the intent of the covenants was to stagger them this way. And the simplest way to get back to that was just to go back to the way they did it with the first meeting.
But Billy, you were saying the original intent was just the initial setup. That the original intent was not
That's what it says.
not to carry
just
this
so-
policy over each
Yeah,
time.
it's just that initial, to get them staggered, so you wouldn't
Yeah.
have 5 new board members every
Right.
Did-
or 4.
Tim Carson.
But then,
Sorry.
it does raise the question though of who is serving on this board because of all the changes and the appointees, and there's 4 members, who is serving the 2-year term and who is serving the 1-year term. So there is a good point with Kevin and April that we sort of need to reset because of the changes or the 4.
I agree with that, I just don't think you need to stick to just that procedure. Like I said, you know, there may be something, somebody may only want to serve 1 term or 1 year. And if that's the case, then why force them to serve 2 when you got somebody else that wants to serve 2 and you're making them only serve 1?
Yes, I understand.
That's an issue that will need to be addressed later on, that you don't have to make it right now, because you can make that decision and, you know, something happens and somebody does step down, so you didn't need to make the decision.
Tim Carson, 2264 Moray Drive. Am I hearing that from April that there is a statutory requirement that you identify the board members and their terms to the state?
Yeah, I have to submit in with their board certification what terms they are sitting.
Okay, so that kind of precludes, we thought it was I was thinking that it was we're doing this as a good old, how we're gonna get past next July. But if you have a statutory requirement that it's 90 days, you have to identify the board members and their terms?
Yes, and their certification, and if they pass their background checks. We have to submit to the DVPR, and we also have to set them up with, because we're HOA and the way that GAAP accounting works, I have to submit to them who is the president and what their term is.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I guess in that discussion, we were, you know, in conversation saying that maybe we should go ahead and figure out the terms for everyone, because right now, like I said, Alex Crawford is set for, she had her 2-year, she's fulfilling her 2nd year. Does it automatically go then to Yvonne or not? It wasn't voted on at the organizational meeting. It wasn't really brought up as something that was like a regular thing that happens, but typically it should have or does. It just doesn't here. It just hasn't. So we needed to address it so that we can be clear on who has access to what, and the DVPR lists them in their term.
Now, when you say term, are you talking about term in office or in the specific offices like secretary, president, or are you talking a term
on the board.
of directors?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah.
So, because that makes a difference. Alex Crawford obviously is no longer president of the association, so you would only give a 1-year term for president. She has a 2-year term as a member of the board of directors.
Right, Right, but because she was in the president's seat, I think is why they gave her that initial 2-year to seat on the board. But that, again, that's how you would say Yvonne's, you know, as president is, the director's portion of it is not what we're looking at. Is she allowed to sit on the board for 2 years like Alex was, is the question.
Yes, and that's unclear because we have 4 people who voted in this time, as opposed to last time was 3.
Yeah, I mean, we could never do a term based on, you know, whatever director seat they're in, because the organizational meeting allows for them to change that by vote, so we couldn't do that legally.
And it can change at any board.
Yeah. Just take.
What did you say in
I
here?
said that your position can change at every board meeting.
Right.
You could vote at every board
may
meeting
mix
to
it up.
change, okay, I'm the president today, you're the secretary.
Note that your conference will expire in 10 minutes.
Wrap it up.
That's how it is.
It's 8 o'clock.
I know. So, are we okay then with deferring this until August 11th to get an idea of?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I just make a motion to table this until August 11th.
Second.
Postpone it.
Pardon?
Table is at the same meeting, postponing is the next meeting.
Okay.
Say that again?
If you table something, that's to this same meeting.
Oh.
It's just later on. If you postpone it, it's to the next meeting.
I make a motion to postpone this until August 11th.
Did you look at that DVD that I gave you?
Yes, because I haven't had time today. Actually,
I got 9.
I think both Ron and I were pretty busy today. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dan?
Bye.
Okay, so it's open forum. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say?
Anybody want to go first?
Here we go. Are you ready?
I know that timer.
And this one is if you get out of hand. So don't make me stop the car.
Why don't we just put a deputy sheriff's uniform on that gavel?
I can don one.
I'm not sure if we have this policy, but I would appreciate the board considering a policy that requires all issues to be brought to the general manager, as opposed to the trash isn't taken out in this spot and somebody grabbing hold of the maintenance or the different staff members. The only other place issues should go to would be the front desk, in order to be brought to the attention of the general manager. In the contract we had with FSR, it said the only person that anybody from the association could talk to was the general manager, and that protected our employees. I'm a little guy, all right? I want to take care of the people we have working for us. We don't need a bunch of people thinking that they're homeowners, so they're the boss. And I've been a little guy out at a condo on the beach. We don't need people telling every maintenance person, every employee, they're in charge. You know, they work for one boss, and that's Ms. Salazar. And I appreciate the board considering making that a policy that any issues should be brought to the attention of the general manager through the front desk. Thank you.
Yeah, the only issue that we're gonna have with that is whenever somebody gets on, writes their email to board of directors at Holly by the Sea, the grass is too tall.
Yeah.
And at that point, we would just forward it over anyways.
Right. What I'm really concerned about is what happened when I came here to Holly by the Sea a few years back, and I've seen it. I talked to employees how they're doing, and they're wore out because they're being hammered by everybody who owns a lot. And we got 4,700 lots in Holly by the Sea,
Yeah.
and we don't need 4,700 owners yanking those people in different directions. They need to work with one boss and one person, and that's April, so that she can direct what's going on.
I couldn't agree more. That way they have the option to say, please tell them at the front desk, and they'll assign someone.
We are going to be reviewing all policies starting Friday. I mean, she's already begun. And so we will, those are areas, things like that, which is a really good suggestion, to ensure that they're incorporated in these policies, so that, for an example, she could not only be the one, but she could maybe assign one other person in case she's not here, then that would be her, for example, that might be her authority then to assign a personnel in her absence. So we are going to be reviewing
Thank you.
that. You're welcome.
I'd just like to go over a couple of ACC issues, just to bring you up to speed and get your thoughts on it. Speaking of policies, like the model home policy, the previous board wanted the ACC to come up with the model home policy of not allowing any more model homes being built. So before we go back and forth and wasting the ACC's time, I just want to hear what you guys would like. Do you want a policy that says, are you aware of the policy the ACC came up with?
Can you succinctly describe the old policy and then the policy?
Well, there is no policy. There is no policy.
There is no policy with regards to
Previous
model
board
homes.
asked the ACC to make policy. Basically, what the policy said was, we would allow model homes to be built on Sunrise from Navigator to 98. So there's only 2 lots left. That's pretty much where we left it. The model home would have to conform to everything that every new home would have to conform to now, which is much. And
Can you say the street names again?
I think it was Navigator to 98. There's only 2 lots left.
Okay.
We as the ACC feels, you really can't stop anybody from making a model home. You can call it what you want. They can build a spec. They can put the home anywhere. We were just trying to make some kind of policy to encourage, if you were going to actually say it's a model home, to just put it up here at Sunrise. On Sunrise.
There's only 2.
There's only 2 lots left.
And there are 3 there right now?
Right, but now we also got a email, which actually I don't know, April, do you have the email from the lawyer from Crew and Crew? That actually said that the model home, was it a business, not a business, is it a business? We could set policy and put limitations in this policy that says that the model home could only be a model home for so long, which I don't know if you could even enforce that, but that was his recommendation from Crew and Crew. Right? They were saying also there's a model home, a business. If it's a business, can it be put in Holly by the Sea at all? Because a lot of times if it's a model home, they keep the real estate agents there and people come in and out. So it doesn't fall under the business. It gets deep. That's why I don't want to waste my time or the ACC's time, which way you guys want to go with it.
Is this policy needed? Is this an issue? I mean, is this
Well,
a serious
here's
problem?
the reason it came up. Yes, you have a builder call up, Stevens and Steven. They called up and said, we want to put a model home here. And we said, no, we don't want the model home. I forget where it was. It was actually right around the corner from Mrs. Crawford's house. And we didn't want that. So that board wanted us to come up with a policy for that. So that's where it came from. Right now, there is no policy. On the application, new home application, it says, is this a model home? So at some point, it must have been okay to put them anywhere.
It was.
Why not just do a time limit on a model home instead of it being infinite?
You know, there used to be, a couple of years ago, there was some discussion about allowing some model homes to be put in up in the northwest portion to encourage development of that area. And I know where I have a vacant lot, that there's a house right across the street in Woodmont Estates that used to be a model home. So there's history to having model homes other than right in this section here.
Okay, we don't have to talk about it. A couple topics, just food for thought. We don't have to come up with something. What we could do is I will send you or email you the policy that we made up and presented to the last board, and take a look at it. Just start thinking
Well,
about
just my
it.
initial thoughts are, I am more inclined to do, like with Beth, for a time limit.
The only thing about the time limits,
Because
you could say it's for sale. Sometimes houses take for a year to sell, and they can still use it. So, is it
But
enforceable?
even if a home is for sale, it's in essence a for sale home, although it's not a model home, people are still going there to look at the home. So you're having the same activity, because
Right.
very few times do people buy homes that they don't actually go and look at. So while it's not a model home, I think the same activity. I just don't want to get in the habit of creating policies for what can
Just
be
to make a policy.
received, yes,
Yeah.
like, well, you know, I don't want a model home around my house, so, or two doors down, therefore.
Right,
we're
well,
gonna make this
it
policy.
also comes up where if you don't have a policy in place, when a builder calls with a question, the staff has no idea what to tell them. They can't just make it up.
So would it be possible, and you definitely have more knowledge than I do in this area, would it be possible to set a time limit, say you can have a model home for at 90 days, at which time you either list it for sale, at which time you have to list it for sale? Can you do that? Is that something?
When I talked to a couple builders that came in, it's not really profitable. They don't seem to even want, it wouldn't be for a short term. Because they want to show off their products, they want to show off, it's usually for a longer term. So I don't think it wouldn't be profitable for them to just build it for a year. And I also talked to him, well, how would he feel about like putting it up on 399 in that commercial lot area? He's like, no, because they want to be able to sell them later. They want it to be in a desirable spot. They don't want it out on 399 either. Again, that was just one contractor.
But his point is, he wants to be able to build it on a lot as a model home, and not necessarily with any time constraints, because at some point in the future, he may sell it.
Correct, but he wants to show off the neighborhood. He doesn't want to just have it out on 399. That doesn't help him. He wants it's Holly by the Sea. He wants to show off. So just putting it up on 399. That's why nothing's really developed up there.
So you're going to send us then what the
I'll
policy
show you
has
the
been
policy,
created?
yeah, and then we can tweak it, or at least get your input on that. The next thing is talking about policies, boat parking in the driveways. Again, this is gonna be a big issue. You're gonna have to start thinking about it. You're gonna enforce it, you're not gonna enforce it. What are we doing? It's all part, it's a big problem. Right now, we have a boat that was turned down multiple times at a board meeting. The boat's still sitting in the driveway. What are you going to do about it? Do we start sending violations? Last time I sent a violation, I wanted to take usage rights. Next thing went from usage rights being taken away, that they were going to give them the, permit for long-term parking in the driveway. So again, I don't want to waste our time or your time, so you don't have to think about what you want to do about the boat parking. Just to hit on that real quick, there's one person, I don't want to call it the grandfather list, but there's one person on that list that had passed, I guess, implied parking permit that's lifetime. And this gentleman is actually handicapped and has a trailer parked in the driveway. He's the only one that, on this current list, that still has a trailer in the driveway.
But that's different than a boat.
Yes. It's the same, in essence, it's the same as a trailer. It's a boat trailer, it's long-term parking.
So we're not talking boat policy, we're talking a parking.
Parking policy.
Yeah, parking.
Well, this just happened to be. So whether or not,
That's changed so many times over the years, or has been discussed so many times that I'm not sure where we are on it right now. To tell you the truth, it's been back and forth with permits and.
well, what you have in place is a policy, and the policy is not being enforced. Well, we're enforcing it, but what happens if the homeowner doesn't want to abide? Right now, it's sitting in the driveway saying,
See, that's
This
something-
board has to have its parking policy.
See, and that is one of the things that has, as a homeowner, is very frustrating, because it changes, there's no continuity. So I would really love and it's going to take mass effort on not just the board, but members, to change the covenants.
Yep.
And so we would really have to draft covenants that are realistic, 21st century, and it's my personal opinion, it doesn't mean it's written in stone, but we do live 5 minutes from Navarre Beach. Add a bunch of tourists and maybe it's 10. So to expect people, especially in the months from, say, Memorial Day to Labor Day, when the boating obviously is the boating activity is increased, to expect that homeowner to park in the back or behind a fence, I think is unrealistic, or is highly inconvenient. So it's one of those where we have to create a policy, I think that is equitable and fair for all, that also does take into account where we are. Now, would I be in favor of some, some rundown two-bit little fishing boat in the pond, in the.
You can't pick and choose though.
Well, I think we could be uniform in that it has to be in good condition. That a boat
Look
cannot
at
be
what you're
fishing.
saying there. It's somewhat watered down already though. If you really look at the covenants, it's really saying behind the structure, which was intended of it being a garage, being parked inside so you didn't even see it. And it's been watered down enough where it's now just parked on the side of the house.
Well, there have been hour-long meetings on what is a structure,
Right.
what is a fence. So it's these things that change, and it's not fair, in my opinion, to the homeowners to have a policy where it's consistently changing. So if we could work toward creating, updated covenants so that it can be voted on, but of course, we have to get the majority.
Right. Again, I'm not here for a debate. I'm just,
Yeah.
this is food for thought.
We had a survey not 2-3 years ago that the majority of people wanted boats parked either on the side or in the back. They didn't want them in the driveway, which is where the
That's
current
what the policy says.
That's where the policy came from.
He's asking you to uphold the policy that is currently.
I'm all for reaffirming the policy.
I am too, and whatever our recourse is.
I think most people bought in Holly by the Sea because it looks nice.
Mhm.
And I think if you allow it to start parking whatever you want in
If
the
you drive
driveway.
down Lincoln Street, not here in this community, but over there across 87, if you go down Lincoln Street, cutting through Walmart, you can see the example of parking boats in the driveway.
Right.
I mean, there are places where there's 3 or 4 boats in a single driveway. You've got huge,
And then
30
you
footers.
start to parking there to working on them,
Yeah.
and then parts, and it's
And
snowballs.
then you've got the sea-doos that are broke down, off to the side.
Again, actually, I'm not here, we can move on,
Okay.
these are things you're gonna have to actually deal with. Next one is, landscaping, natural landscaping with new homes. It's starting to become an issue, we've had a couple, I know there's a homeowner out in the audience now that has a huge problem with her neighbor, and it's something that we're gonna have to think about, where give the architectural some guidance of how you may want to take it. And when I say this is, in the covenants it says that the front and the sides of all properties need to be sprinklered. A lot of people we encourage people to go Florida natural. Leave the landscaping naturally, right? But the covenant says we need to landscape inside and irrigate. So,
Only if it's cleared, you have to landscape.
well, here's the problem. You sometimes you have builders that sort of say they're going to clear, leave it natural, but then they slowly clear out. They want to put up a fence, so we give them a permit to take out a fence, and then after we give them a permit to take out a fence, he's like, well, I can't put up the fence because 2 or 3 trees are in the way. Next thing you know, they take out 3 or 4 trees, and now it's wide open. And it's like, yeah, now it's not natural anymore. But you were stuck because the AC approved this, and it really wasn't the intent. It was supposed to be left natural, and all there is 1 tree left. So, I guess I'm not really sure what I'm asking you. I'm just telling you that it's a problem out there. On corner lots especially, we're gonna have to probably do something with the corner lots. We're basically where the ACEC is now. We're encouraging natural landscaping. We're asking you to keep it natural, but if you do keep it natural, especially on the sides and the fronts, it needs to be landscaped underneath it with pine straw and edged and kept this has to be presentable. It can't be just, I know that's not Florida natural. Florida natural is untouched. But,
No, it isn't.
No, it's Florida friendly.
Friendly.
Florida friendly.
okay.
It's not.
Sorry. But, or at least, so the covenants would be covered, and we also, irrigation, the sprinkler will keep in there, those sides.
It's not mandatory.
I'm the homeowner that's complaining. Patricia Ho, 2792 Camden Drive.
What are you complaining about?
The natural landscape that was approved 2 years ago. The home was built, occupied, has not been cleared. The natural landscape has 3 gates in it that exit to the street. So it's a parking lot.
Can you tell me, is it okay if she gives me the address? Because right now I'm having a hard time picturing. I'd really like to see what it is you're talking about.
6701 Castlewood.
Say that again, please.
6701 Castlewood. And my street address is 2792 Camden. and I'm on a corner lot, and the other home is on a corner lot also.
So, what is your issue then with this?
It looks like
other thing?
shit.
It looks okay.
Is it, everything's been, all the
Is that a
evergreens
subjective,
have
or is that?
been, all the evergreens have been cleared from this natural area, and there's one tree left.
So yeah, then that would not fit, Pete, that
So
would not
it-
fit the description or the definition of a natural landscape.
Right.
So when they built the home, they stated their intent was to keep it natural. So if they want to clear it like they have, do they need to come to you or come to the architectural and get permission?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's not been done.
He came, he left it natural, then he came and said, we want to put up a fence. So we okayed a permit to put up the fence. But it ran through that natural area. So then he said, can I take out a couple of trees? Because I can't put the fence, it's in between a couple of trees, I don't want to have the fence going sideways, it wouldn't look presentable. So of course, we said, okay, you have to do what you have to do to get the fence in. After knowing this gentleman, it seems like he's kind of snakes his way around things and kind of gets the way he wants without actually saying it. You know what I'm saying? He's playing this a little bit.
I personally was approved to remove 42 pine trees from my property by this gentleman in his department. So on the average, this person also removed close to that amount.
So this is his backyard?
His whole property,
It's the
he
entire-
removed every pine tree from his whole property and had nothing to do with where the fence was placed.
So what you're wanting us to do is to establish.
Right, again,
This
we
this
have
is
no
just an
knowledge.
example.
We don't go out and see if he's lying or not. That's the problem.
There's no enforcement.
No, there's no enforcement at all.
There's no
If you
law.
come in and tell me that the tree's in the way of the fence, I'm gonna believe you and say, okay, take down the tree, you can't get the, you know. But if he's playing us, that's the problem. And there's no enforcement now because we technically okayed this. I would
So-
like to take it back, but how do you, we would lose in court. I'm
But
telling you right
his
now.
drawing
So
is not the same.
Is the architectural committee or members of the architectural committee authorized to go and verify what the applicant is wanting, that it is accurate, and
Well-
then to go and verify afterward?
They do go, they do finals and go
Yeah,
afterwards.
we do go,
So,
but we would have to go out prior. There's no way to check everyone. You're
Well,
talking about
now that
two
the
girls.
barn door's closed, I mean, she's made a complaint.
Right.
It's
and-
not closed yet. His fence hasn't been final because he's still in violation.
So,
Just-
I mean, at that point with her complaint, we have the authority to go out and say, you're no longer in compliance with the natural landscaping that was originally approved, correct?
And I have pictures to prove it.
Right, yes, we could definitely do that. In my honest opinion, you know what I think will happen in court? Your ACC approved this application to clear, leave this natural, then to take down a couple trees and to put up this fence. I think we would lose. That's just my opinion. I think that's why I'm bringing it to you. I think it's an issue that it has to be addressed.
But the covenants read, if you clear, you must irrigate and sod.
You know, I walk by that lot because I live on Castlewood, and this person did want to cut down this oak tree, and he actually made his fence go so that he didn't have to cut down the tree. So if he can do that, then why did he clear everything and not landscape it? It looks terrible. It really does look terrible.
Well, it looks worse because it's on a dirt road.
Yeah.
But then, here's the other issue though. She would like him to sod everything, but guess what? We really can't make someone sod the easement. You can't make somebody do the 20 feet from the road. And
But
that's
it's
part
more
of
than
the
20
problem.
feet.
There's sodding to the easement in Hidden Creek Estates. Everywhere, everybody's sodding to the easement, which is
There's nowhere in the
street.
covenants that it says you have to sod to,
Supposed to sod.
Hidden Creek covenants may say that.
If you clear, you have to.
Well, they enforce,
Then you have to irrigate.
can you imagine what it would look like?
okay, so this isn't something that we're gonna get resolved tonight, but from my understanding, what you're wanting us to do is to look at the policy and ensure that natural landscaping is clearly defined, that obviously the requests are clearly stated, or the process of requesting the clearing of a lot, then ensuring that the request that's approved is followed through, and then the enforcement. how do we enforce a code violation? Or, okay, got it.
And if they deviate from what was once agreed to,
Then that's a violation.
then, what is the process for making sure that?
Yes. Okay.
In cases like that, is it logical to have ACC go out and flag those trees and say, you have permission to remove?
With this particular gentleman, obviously, we definitely would know, because we know he's kind of shady.
But I mean, as policy, perhaps that's something we should consider. Do it.
That is something that
What's that?
I think that we need to get in there, first of all, and deal with what the actual issue on the verbiage is and clearing that up. As far as the architectural office and the amount of time they have for paperwork and other things and actually physically going out, we need to look at what it really is before we obligate them to do something above and beyond. And if it looks, if you review it, you go, yeah, they've got plenty of time, fine. But I just don't wanna put the pressure out there right now.
I mean, is there that much of it?
although enforcement does seem to be an issue with many things, so it might be.
Yes.
It might be that we need to look at hiring someone who strictly does enforcement, or who is responsible because.
There's no penalty.
We
Or
don't
the
have
penalty, okay.
But again, you have to look at what you can do legally per Florida statute, because the bylaws do not allow us to fine them for that specifically. You can follow the statute for liens and files and those kinds of things, restriction of usage.
But you can't restrict use. Correct.
Yeah, but if a person doesn't use the facility, that's not
Right,
really,
that's more,
I mean, take away my usage.
So we'll need to look and see specifically what it says in accordance with fine. You don't have the ability to fine.
Okay.
I'm
And that's-
personally not against, Florida-friendly landscaping. I have 66 pages to read about Florida-friendly landscaping. My big issue, and it was a learning curve about this Florida-friendly landscaping approved in 2009 by the state. So that's new to me. However, it's been cleared, now it's used as a parking lot. 3 gates exit through this Florida-friendly natural area, which should not have been used as an access in and out of the park.
Well, again, it's not something that we can solve tonight, but we will look at
We'll
that
look into it, sure.
and see what we can
Thank
do
you.
and the policy that can be created. It's not going to happen overnight, so.
I
give
did
us
bring
some
it up
time.
to Miss Fabia. She did nothing. I brought it to Miss Crawford. She's blamed you for a lot of things. She did nothing.
Well, we're not going to blame anybody, we're just going to attempt to solve the problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have him look at the fence, cause he hasn't done anything.
Oh. Still on violation.
Yeah. He still has an open violation too. Basically, he had the board, a couple of meetings ago, decided to make him change his fence for smooth side out. He hasn't done it yet. So he's
Well, I
resisting
think
with
I do know where-
that. He's also has a violation for his trailers. He has a couple trailers in the backyard. He's saying that, his lawyer is saying that the fence is a structure because it was done in the past. So again, it's gonna be an issue.
I mean, there's bobcats parked there.
Right, it is commercial, you can't always see it though, it's a problem, it's low, so you can't see over the 6-foot fence. We'd have to probably go on a property and, look over the fence to get it, but.
Ordered by dirt road on one side by Camden, is it Camden?
Yes.
Okay, I know where it is.
All right, well, not to beat the dead horse. The same builder actually, remember the issue with the sill fences?
Yes.
Yeah, we have, this particular builder is saying that he really doesn't want to put the sill fences up. It's a county rule. Well, long story short, technically it's for irrigation. The county cannot technically enforce whether or not you put up a silt fence. What they enforce is whether you or not have water runoff. So if you're maintaining the water runoff and there's no issue there, they can't technically say you need a silt fence. So whether or not we require the silt fence because it's on our application, but maybe we should change the application to say silt fence for water retention and maybe trash, because I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons we have the silt fence is to make sure it doesn't blow over into the neighbor's garden. One of the worst things that you have, excuse me, when you're building a house is all the trash from the builders blowing into the neighbor's yard. So silt fence sort of helps out with that more than I think almost the water retention.
Sedimentation needs to be
Yeah.
in that list also.
So, I don't
And
know if you want,
there are
there's
wetlands involved,
no,
then it's a DEP issue.
there's no policy. This particular builder, just to let you know, because it could be a problem coming, we have fences. He put up I think like an 8 or 10 foot piece of silt fence in the front and like a 15-foot piece on the side. It goes nowhere, it doesn't connect. It's just too like there.
There's a certain way that NPDES says that should be installed. It has to be towed in.
Right.
It
Well,
has to be maintained.
we have, I can show you the emails from the county. Basically, the county has one inspector, and he said that, listen, if the water's not running off, if it's being maintained, there's not much they're probably going to be able to do.
Well, is that requirement for it, is that our policy, or is that in the?
It's on our building, new home building permit application. But in the county code, it says nothing about silt fences. It says water retention.
But is that not one of the reasons that we require a performance bond from those builders?
Right.
If they meet our qualifications.
And this is what we told that builder. He said, well, if you don't think it's that important, we're going to retain the silt fence, that is. If you don't think the silt fence is that important, we're going to retain your $2,000 bond.
Correct. I think we need to start holding.
You know what he did? He put up the 12-foot piece and the 15-foot piece on the side. That does nothing.
It's not satisfactory.
But we have nothing here to say that it's not.
Well, maybe we need to rework that.
That's why I'm coming to you.
Change it to say closed property.
So maybe we have 3 sides. Do you want to stagger the front? There's no policy, so it's just something. It's just something.
I can give you the spec for that. For how it's supposed to be.
Right. So it's. I don't know if you want to make a policy, or I don't think you need a policy. I think it should be specified on the new home application. Maybe we modify that to say silt fences.
That's what I'm talking about.
So
I mean, there's no reason we couldn't attach the specifications to that.
for the silt fences.
that.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll bring it back to the ACC, and we're going to modify the application again with the silt fences, and we'll come back with verbiage for that so you guys could approve it.
I can help you with that.
Okay. All right, so that's, another policy is for the yard sales, garage sales. Now you say, well, why do we really want to do this? Really, we don't. The problem is,
One house.
well, it's a couple. It's a couple houses. It's really just to have the ACC have some kind of verbiage to give to the homeowner when they're in violation. Right now, the only thing we can give them is it's covered under nuisance. So there's really nothing to say that you can't, that you could say you can't run a business, and we tried it a couple different ways, and I was talking to Beth about it. It's very vague about, maybe you could get like a tax, if you have more than 2 garage sales a year, you have to have it, like, show it on, claim it on your taxes. We don't want to do that. Basically, all we're trying to do is, if it becomes, the people that have it 10 times a month, whatever it is, you know what I mean, where it's really a business, when they're having it all weekend, like during Christmas. Right, I mean, we know the ones, so it's something to think about. We have a policy, and it's actually going to be a guideline in place that maybe we'll pass on to you, see what you think about it. And if it actually comes up, the violation can be written under our covenants with the actual violation as a nuisance, and give them the recommendation of the board with these suggestions. And I'll pass that on to you.
How many more items do you have?
Hurry up.
No, only because I'm looking at the time.
Three or 4. Quick, iPhone or the iPad. We need to get that for the ACC to do violations.
We're there, we just gotta.
Okay. Another big one was, what are we doing with crew and crew, or what are we doing with the other lawyer?
We got that too. What we need to do is, first of all, we have a lot of things going on and things that we've got to get and
Right.
certain other things. And I know that a lot of these were going to the lawyer.
So the monthly legals, where are we sending them to? Because they're like,
I need to review what was happening with the board and let them decide if they're going to still submit those on their own. For me, it's a waste of money to do it that way, to be honest with you. Because they're just giving you an opinion about what, and we're having to pay for it.
right,
By sending them something that ultimately they're going to decide and look at anyway.
right.
So I just want to give them the full picture of what it is that's being submitted, how it's being submitted, what's been approved before, the kind of information they were getting back from,
so I don't know if you guys know what we're talking about. It's the actual legals. Whatever you decide, if we send to legal because of maintenance or whatever, basically Shelby and architectural sends it to the lawyer, and we get monthly reports on how that's being processed. Right now, we don't know where we are. Crew is not really getting back to us, right?
And are you being specific for like foreclosed lots and things like that, or?
Or even maintenance. Anything that came from the board saying that we want to send it to legal.
See, for me, anything that's not like, a motion for foreclosure or something like that doesn't need to go to legal.
Well, I guess if they owe $4,000 or $7,000, it was sent to legal.
The only thing that we've talked about approving right now is lien letters going to the attorney. I think that any other thing, intents to liens and all those, we can do in our office. We're legally allowed to do that. It's a waste of money to have them do all of that paperwork if really what we're getting back
There's nothing.
is less than what we're spending.
Right. Okay, so we need to solve that. The other thing is, got to talk about a car
Yes.
for the ACC.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure you guys know that. I know April knows, but I want to just, sorry April, I'm not really stepping over.
What's it been, like 2 weeks? It's been a week? How long have I been here?
And the other thing with the application, and I just want to bring it to your attention, we get 3 or 4 complaints a week for chicken coops. The last board didn't want anything to do with it because they said, why start a problem? But I'm telling you, numbers are calling and complaining. And right now we tell them, you could have them. She's trying to start a log and logging numbers, how many calls.
What are their complaints?
They're not getting free eggs.
They're loud.
Yeah. So I,
Are they complaining about noise or?
yeah, yeah.
Shut the chickens up and you can't bring them in.
No roosters, but
Yeah, but I mean, if a chicken is a
You-
nuisance.
I guess
like a
no,
dog, it's
I don't
not
You
know.
a
can't
dog.
bring them, you can't lock them up to a what?
You're gonna make someone
Gonna eat 'em.
house chickens inside their home?
No, I mean, you said like, okay, during the day, the chickens are out. I was raised on a farm where we didn't have chickens. So during the day, they're in the backyard, and then at night, you can't put them in their chicken coop and lock so they're not making.
all I'm saying
Is
is,
that not
it's
possible?
becoming a really big thing, and we need to think about it. We changed one of the policies to include it, so maybe you guys just wanna take a look at it and just think about it. All I'm saying is, it's a problem. Just because people aren't here telling you about it, we're getting phone calls,
It's really
and
gonna grow.
if we don't have some kind of regulation in place, it's just gonna snowball, so you might wanna just think about it, that's all I'm saying. That's it.
It doesn't be.
Thank you, Pete.
Is
Oh, I just
it
want to comment real quickly on voting, on votes things. I'm Sherry Smith, 740